Moving to our big debate tonight, what's meant to be a student-organized forum has now become a mini political battleground. Student organizers at the business school Wharton are now desperately trying to reach out to Congress politicians to attend their forum, but so far have got no response. This, of course, after they uninvited Narendra Modi. So far, Rahul Gandhi, Sheila Dikshit and Shashi Tharoor have all said that they can't make it, but many others do seem keen to attend. Let's just look at that story.
The Wharton India Economic Forum has turned into India's political power struggle. Within hours of Narendra Modi's cancellation, speculation was rife that Arvind Kejriwal was replacing him. A few hours later, Mr. Kejriwal confirmed he was on a public policy panel confirmed early in the year, not a replacement for the Gujarat Chief Minister.
Mr. Modi's cancellation has nothing to do with my invitation. These are two completely independent events as far as I know.
But the controversy wasn't over. Indian writer and Wall Street Journal columnist Sadanand Dhume also pulled out of the meet, saying,
"It sort of put me in a dilemma. I mean, I thought that Wharton should either not have invited Narendra Modi, or once they had invited him, they should have stood by it. So this is something that would not normally have been a freedom of speech issue. They're free to invite whoever they want to. But once they invited him, I don't think they should have crumbled. I don't think they should have backed down on the face of pressure."
Dhume joins Sena leader Suresh Prabhu, who pulled out, protesting over Modi's invitation being recalled. The Gujarat-based Adani Group also pulled out sponsorship from the event, miffed over the snub to the Chief Minister. But their loss could be the Congress's gain. Sources have told NDTV Wharton has approached several Congress leaders following the Modi fiasco. Rahul Gandhi has been approached several times in the past via his key aide, Kanishka Singh, a Wharton alumnus. On campus, meanwhile, the views remain bitterly divided. But the Wharton-Modi controversy has raised a bigger question, that of moral blemishes versus corruption litanies. Is any Indian politician truly immune?
I'm standing outside the Wharton Business School at the heart of this controversy. The air outside is cold, but the heat is definitely on. How do you separate economic success from political past? Where do you talk about humanitarian grounds? And I think at the Wharton campus, this is a tremendous amount of debate which is going on in the Indian diaspora as well as beyond. And this is something that only India's conscience will now have to answer. At the Wharton campus in Philadelphia, Namrata Brar for NDTV.
Well, joining me tonight is Shashi Tharoor, Minister of State for Human Resources Development. Thank you very much for joining me, Mr. Tharoor. This, of course, when we hear that you have been invited by Wharton's India Economic Forum, are you going to be going?
No, this was an invitation sent 6-7 weeks ago to be the keynote speaker. And I had declined, saying that this would clash with my commitments in Parliament. They have actually invited me every year since I spoke there in a similar capacity 4 years ago, and I have not been able to go since. It's a great forum. I'm happy to address it, but frankly, Parliament takes priority, and so I suggested to them that they should approach somebody else who didn't have a parliamentary priority. Perhaps that's why they went to a chief minister. I don't know.
Are you surprised by this whole controversy? In one sense, the snub, as it were, to Mr. Narendra Modi is being seen by many in the BJP and others as an insult to India. We've seen other columnists, who are not normally Mr. Modi's supporters as such, making the point that Wharton's India Economic Forum took the wrong decision. In fact, Sadanand Dhume said that they failed to provide a neutral platform to encourage cross-pollination of ideas about India. What is your take on this, sir?
No, I actually agree with Dhume on that, because in fact, obviously I disagree profoundly at every level with Mr. Modi. But I think it's far better to debate his record and his views rather than to try and suppress his voice by disinviting him. I would agree that once they had invited him, they had a duty to hear his point of view. They should have asked him questions, including uncomfortable ones. They should have challenged some of his assumptions and arguments. That's what makes for a stimulating debate. And on a university campus, that's what the entire process should be all about. I think that it was a pity. I suspect, knowing that these are student organizers and remembering the group of wonderful student organizers I interacted with when I did this 4 years ago, my own feeling is that, quite frankly, they just didn't want the bother. They got so much of heat. They said, oh my gosh, we can't cope with all this trouble. Let's get ourselves out of it. I don't think it was a considered decision. And I suspect they're regretting both their decision to invite and their decision to disinvite, because both were rather perhaps insufficiently thought through.
Do you think the decision to invite, the point you just made, were not sufficiently thought through. Why do you think the decision to invite, do you think in that sense Mr. Modi is as much a legitimate political leader as a democratically elected Chief Minister of India? There is a view that disinviting him in this sense is something that should be protested by all, and you're a rare Congress politician who says that perhaps this should not have happened, because most others, at least off the record, are happy with it.
Well, I should stress I'm not speaking for my party or the government. This is a purely personal view I'm expressing, and I've said this on Twitter as well, that it's a personal view. But my own view is that once they had invited him, I'm not saying that I would have recommended they invite him, but once they had invited him, they had an obligation to listen rather than cave into the objections of people outside. Because the fact is that, it became the line of least resistance. There are lots of people protesting. There might be demonstrations outside. Maybe we'll have security implications we haven't thought about. Who wants the grief? Let's disinvite him. Well, that's really the line of least resistance, and it's not good enough. Once you've made a decision to invite somebody, you should stick by your guns, and I think the kids have learned a lesson. This is a student-organized event, and I don't in any way disrespect that. I think it's good that young people have actually created an event that's become so prominent and that attracts such an extremely serious level of participation, not just from political figures, by the way, but from captains of industry. We've had some of India's biggest corporate figures going to Wharton and speaking there. So, and entertainment figures and others. It's a big conference, and students have built it up. So that's great, but they should think these things through. And when they decided to invite somebody who was known to attract protests, they should have said, well, if we invite him, we'll have these consequences and we should be prepared to stick to it. To invite and then to disinvite is what I suggested shows they haven't thought things through.